Here we are, team. We made it to the very last project of online learning in the spring of 2020. Congratulations for making it. One more task to go and we are finito. All right, here we go. So the final project of the year. This is something that gives you an opportunity to put everything together that we've worked on this year. So obviously I'm not going to expect you to talk about every single thing we talked about, but it's more looking at the skills that we've been practicing all through the year. There's lots and lots of choice involved in this activity, and that will help you kind of make sure that you're focusing on something that you're finding interesting. Basically, what you're doing is you're going to be isolating one big idea, and you're going to explore that big idea in one decade. All right, here we go. What do you need to do? You guys are going to be creating your own MIDI module, loosely based on what we've been doing with the module web page for the last couple of weeks. And you have to decide on two things. Number one, you have to decide on a decade that you want to focus on, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, or 90s, doesn't matter which one, and you are going to select what we're going to look at as a theme or a big idea, okay? And then you're going to use specific examples to illustrate that. It's really straightforward. First thing, guys, is you pick a decade. Doesn't matter which decade you pick. All of them are interesting. All of them have tons of history in them, but you might want to pick the one that you already know a lot about, the one you want to learn about, the one that you find interesting. It doesn't matter. 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, or 90s, any decade, and you just pick one. And then you need to pick a theme. And this is where you have to do a little bit of the thinking part, because the decade choice is going to be just something that you find interesting. And the theme is where we're looking for a big idea, okay? And a theme is defined as a main idea or an underlining meaning of a literary work, in this case a history project, which may be stated directly or indirectly. Okay, well that's pretty straightforward. And basically, it's the big idea that's holding, excuse me, everything together in your work. Now, in the handout, this is taken right from the handout, this shot right here. Here's an example of all different kinds of themes. You don't have to pick one of these because I wrote this in red. You can pick something else if you want. You just need to let me know. So you could talk about how in the 1970s Canada became more diverse, or how in the 1980s multiculturalism was embraced, or how Canada became more involved internationally through events like participation in the Korean War or the Gulf War or whatever. Doesn't matter. You could talk about the sense of freedom or resistance and protest. Doesn't matter, guys. You can also pick something you're interested in, but the idea is you pick something that you like in a decade you want to focus on. So there's tons and tons of choice there, okay? And I'm happy to brainstorm. If you're feeling a bit stuck, I'm happy to brainstorm with you about what kind of theme you might want to choose, okay? So this is from the handout, and whatever theme you choose will inform what you include for your examples, okay? Because basically what you're creating is a mini module. So if we're writing an essay, you have a thesis and you support that thesis, as we all know, with specific evidence. And that evidence could come in the form of a primary quote, it could be a statistic, it could be a detail. But you're not writing an essay, you're making a module that's focused on audio and visual evidence. So you have to figure out how to put that together and what that's going to look like. So you have to find not primary quotes because it's not necessarily an essay, but what you're going to do is you're going to find evidence and then you're going to organize it in a way that illustrates your theme. So based on the modules that we've looked at, we're going to ask you to look at finding examples of your own. So you need to find a TV commercial, an example of propaganda, doesn't matter what kind. 3 specific images, it could be from a newspaper, could be a bulletin board, or pardon me, like a billboard is the word I'm looking for. It could be a picture of a work of art. It doesn't matter, but 3 images, 2 songs, the way that we examine songs in the module Rebel with a Cause, and any 2 primary source audio video clips. And we had all kinds of those in the modules, guys. So the interviews with Pierre Trudeau, the interviews of the Iron Curtain speech, like a clip, a video clip, or part of a podcast or a radio clip that helps illustrate your particular theme. I included the link here to the CBC archives, which is great, but of course YouTube has tons as well. And the last thing you need to do is you need to refer to 2 specific people or groups that are related to the theme somehow. So for example, in the modules, we talked about Prime Minister Diefenbaker in the Cold War. In the FLQ crisis, we spoke of Pierre Trudeau, Prime Minister at the time. So those would be 2 individuals, but we also talked about different groups, right? So you could talk about, the environmental movement or the anti-war protesters. Those are groups made up of people. Doesn't have to be an individual, but it has to be an identifiable group. So if you go through that, you've got 1 commercial, 1 piece of propaganda, 3 images from a newspaper, from a journal, from a magazine, from a video, doesn't matter, 2 songs, and you guys know how to find this stuff online. 2 primary clips. It could be a news clip. It could be part of a speech. It could be, it depends on the decade what you're going to get, depending on what technology was available. And lastly, reference of 2 particular groups or individuals. And that brings you to a total of 11 different examples. 2 songs, 1 commercial, 1 propaganda, 3 images, 2 primary sources, 2 groups. Put it together and you have 11 things. You've found all of them. You've got your theme. You've got your examples, you have your decade. Now what do? This is where you have a few options of how you want to put it together. Probably the easiest way for lots of you is using Google Slides, which is totally fine. And you could choose to type in your explanation of how everything is connected by including text. But you can also just have a simple collage of your images and your video clips and songs and what have you, and then use voiceover like I'm doing right now. The tool that I used is listed here. There's a live link there to something called Screencast-O-Matic. It's very, very easy. If I could figure it out in 4 minutes, you guys can figure it out in 3 seconds. And it just plays your PowerPoint in the back. You narrate whatever you want to add to it, and then you put it together and you can publish it to a YouTube channel. It's super easy. I'm happy to do a Google Meet session on it if anybody wants to know how. There are other technologies you could use as well that I'm just listing for people who might not know how to do that. There's something called a PechaKucha presentation, which is where you have 20 slides that play for 20 seconds and you narrate them along the way. And it sort of progresses from one slide to the next without clicking or anything like that. It's a pretty neat option. There is a link to how to do that, and there's all kinds of stuff on the internet about that one. If you have a different technique you want to use, that's fine. The only stipulation is that it's easily compatible and it's easily accessible, and that I won't have any trouble opening it, and I will hear your audio, see your visuals, etc. So it's pretty open how you choose it. My guess is most of you will use Google Slides because it's pretty straightforward, but doesn't matter to me as long as it is accessible, easy, and reliable. I am happy for you to do that. So basically, super quick summary, guys. You pick a decade, easy. Pick a theme. I've listed all kinds of them, but you can pick whatever you like. Find 11 examples based on the guidelines. Organize them somehow on a platform. Provide an explanation, which you will do by setting yourself up with an introduction to your theme and your decade, then your examples, and then you wrap it up. So the same way you would never hand in an essay without an introduction and a conclusion, you don't really want to do that without an introductory and concluding slide in your presentation. All of that's written in your own words. If you have a link of an image or a video or a commercial, a slide with that, just copy and paste the link on the bottom so I can see that, or you can put a list at the end if that's easier for you. You submit your work and you're done. And my friends, it is summertime. So pretty straightforward. I'll have a couple of Google Meets set up. The target due date for this is June 15th or anytime before that. And I will have Google Meet sessions for anybody who's wanting to brainstorm decade theme, examples, resources, how to organize it, how to use Screencast-O-Matic, any of that stuff. But just so you have a sense, that's what we're doing. In a nutshell, pick a theme, pick a decade, find 11 examples, put them together, hand it in, finished. Okay? So see you at Google Meet and write down any questions you have and we can clarify anything from there. Okay? Have a great day.